Okay, the replacement 2K7 10-watt resistor is finally here. I don't know why it took a week and a bit to arrive. It must be Christmas post or something. So I thought we'd just check it out and measure it, and if it's all good, install it. So just a reminder, can you see that there? Yes, you can. The one that's currently in the or the one that was in the amp measures 2.51k, so 2,510 ohms. The replacement 2.65. Okay, so that's what was going to go in. Turn on the soldering iron and the desoldering tool. We'll also clean up and get the old wires out as well where I've cut them. And then we'll get this one installed. It is the same size, look. It's the same DIMMs. So we're just going to the two outer terminals. Oh, that's blocked. No, it's not. Feels like it's blocked. Sounds like it's blocked. But according to this, it's not. What's going on? What I've found with that desoldering tool is if you try and use it immediately after turning it on, you know, it says it's up to temperature, but I don't think there's enough heat soak in the elements to actually make a difference. It causes problems. Tell you what we'll do. Let's reflow this one first. Then come in with a soldering gun. There you go. That did a better job, didn't it? Yeah, if you leave it to heat soak for 20 minutes or so, I never have these issues. Gotcha. Right, where was it? Was it that one? That's looking better. Excellent. Right. Let's double check our work, shall we? Make sure there's absolutely no resistance between those pins there. And make sure that this one still measures 2.51. Yes, it does. Cool. Okay. Right, this one then. Here it is. So it kind of rests on top like that, doesn't it? I don't want to put too much strain on these wires. Leads. Wires. Leads. Leads, wires. Solder it from this side. Can you see? Can you see? Now you can. What do we think? What do we think? That looks alright, doesn't it? One final test. Boom, done. Good job. Okay, and the other resistor, the huge 30k 20 watt resistor. Now, 30k isn't an E12 value, it's an E24 value, which is not the series that I use. So I've looked online, and getting a 30k 20 watt resistor is quite difficult. It's quite difficult indeed. But we know this one is out of spec. It's way out of spec. I've measured it and shown you, which means we do have to do something with it. Now, I can get a 30k 20 watt resistor all the way from China, but I don't know the quality. I don't know if it truly is a 20 watt resistor or if they've just written that on there. I don't know. The data sheets aren't, exactly of the standard you'd expect. But I can do either 27k or 33k, which are the E12 values. Now, after doing a little bit of research, speaking to some other people, to find out what they've done in these ultralinear amps before, and the general consensus is to use a 33k resistor. Now, we will measure this when the amp is up and running, just to get some data. But 20 watt apparently is quite large, and apparently these usually only dissipate somewhere in the 5 to 6 watt range. So 20k probably is a bit much. So what I've managed to find is a 33k 17 watt resistor, but as you can see, it's quite a bit larger, quite a bit longer, I should say. But that's what we're going to use. We're going to install that, and if I find we're not dropping enough voltage, then I can get a 27k and go from there. But yeah, that's the resistor. So also on this piece of tag strip is the two 100k splitter resistors for the reservoir cap. They share a common ground here, but they are the white wire here is for the 30k resistor. The terminal next to it is for the top end of the 100k's, and then obviously, so you've got a red wire going to that one, and you've got this pink wire going to the split there. Now this white wire is hanging on by a thread. Let me zoom you in a bit more. Let me give you an idea. It's really hanging on. So I'm going to take my time to redo that, and I'll redo these two as well. These two resistors are coming out. They are 100k 1 watts. Well, I'm going to put some metal films in. I thought I had some metal oxides in stock. In fact, maybe I do. Let me have a look. Yes, I do. So I'm going to use those. Okay, so I need to remember that. Let me zoom you out. The end with the screw in is the non-ground end. So this is the grounded end. Right, okay. Out she comes. And the white wire as well. And the white wires go away from the lugs. Okay. I said it was hanging on by a thread, but it's holding on. Here you go. It was holding on for dear life, that thing. Quite a bit of tarnish on there, isn't there? I might strip this down fully, stick it in the ultrasonic cleaner, try and clean those up, or maybe am I just going to end up using a new piece of tag strip? So pink goes to the yeah. What do we think? Should we try and clean that up? Or should we just replace it? Not sure. I'm going to run it on the wire wheel. That's better. Look at that. It's cleaned up wonderfully. Okay, so it was. This is the ground end. And then we have do I want to do the wires first or the resistors first? Do I want to do the wires first or the resistors first? What do you think? If it goes that way, the resistors will mount on this side. No, the 100k's go this side. The large one goes this side. I'll bring up my picture and have a look, shall I? Yeah, that's right. And okay, so I think we're going to do the wires first. We're going to do the wires first. So see if we can get it back to some good. How much do we need? 1/4 inch? A third? Yeah. Okay, so there's going to be... What did we say? That one and that one. Oh no! Live on camera. There you go, just too brittle. Right, I'm going to have to get a new piece of tag strip now. Really frustrating. So actually what we're going to need is... Look. Doesn't line up. These are spaced every third, so mount, 1, 2, mount, 1, 2, mount. But this needs mount, 1, 2, mount, 1, 2, mount. Duh. Check the rest of the pack. It's all the same. It's all the same. Anything I can make up? The only thing I guess I could do would be remove this one and then move this one over. Yeah, let me try that. So that one's got to come out. This one needs to come over. Like that. That one can go back there, can't it? You see what I'm doing? And then the other thing I need to do, I guess, is we don't need this mount here, do we? So we get rid of that one and get one more spare tag. Off an old bit and make it up that way. Go on. And we should now have our replacement correctly sized and correctly spaced tag strip. Haha, right, let's fix that problem. Right, remind me what we were doing. We were, if it mounts that way, this is the ground end. And so therefore that's where that wire was going to go. That one. And then this one then went 2 doors up in that hole. Yep. Wrap it round. And then we'll just tack those in place. Like that. And the other one is this one. Which will go next door up here. Oh, that one came out, look. Excellent. Okay, what's next? We want these resistors. On this side, roughly. Tempted to mount them slightly off. No, hold on. What have we done there? Oh, I see. On the original one, that one jumped one eyelet, and this one jumps two down to the bottom. So they're not evenly spaced. Doesn't matter though, because I can add a jumper. Okay. And the final bit then will be no, hold on. Because I don't want to use that as the grounding point, don't I? I want to run, I don't want to use that mount as the ground. Can you see? I want to run a separate wire around to my miniature star ground. So we don't cut that one off there. We don't attach it there. We remove that solder. Oh, it's in standby mode. Hold on. Let's get some heat into it while we're waiting. Now we mount this, but look at the size of it. If I zoom you out, you'll probably get a better view because I won't keep moving off camera. So we need to go between these two inner terminals on this one. which, if I offer that up, as though it's almost square, will be there, and there. So that's what I need to bend my legs to. I want the value up showing up, so we'll just do it like that. Come along. Bend you into place, like that. Not too much stress on that wire, on that lead, like that as well. Through we go, through we go. Right. Bend back on yourself. Yeah, look at this, we are winning. Now the only thing there is there going to be a risk of, yeah, there's a slight risk of, even though that's still another ground, do we bring it away? Or do we cut that short? We cut that short. Like that. We need to do the same this end. So we don't want that high voltage there touching ground there. You see? Do I cut that away there, or do I just heat shrink it? Can you see, if I zoom you in, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Oh, come on. So this is the high voltage, yeah? And now it's quite close to our grounding, our mounting point, which will be ground, and I don't want that. So do I trim this terminal short, or do I heat shrink it? Or do I do both? I think I do both. Yeah, okay. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. Okay, so that's that made. Now I just want to, on both of these, well, that's clean anyway. I just need to clean up this old flux on here. For no other reason than it looks awful. Okay, so that's the two tag strip assemblies done. Bad news. I left it over the weekend. It's now Monday, and I've come in, and even though I had done my best to straighten out the chassis mounting bolts, sorry, the transformer mounting holes at the front of the chassis, I had also bent this lip back into shape the best I could. I've come back in, and it seems the transformer has just moved again. I think the chassis itself it's just too weak in that position to carry on using the original mounting methods. So, I mean, you can see it's gone back to being off kilter. We'll measure how far out of plumb it is shortly. It's annoying because the power transformer is very, very, very heavy. And this chassis material, I think it's 2mm thick, isn't it? Although it will be imperial, 1.74, so it's actually less, which puts us at 76 thou thick. So yeah, I'm going to take that transformer off again, bash these out again, maybe try a different method, and I think we're going to have to use some big the biggest flat washers I can get in there just to try and spread the load. I had thought about having an internal bracket made up, a square bracket, obviously with the same size cutout, but would allow me to spread the load further around. But I'm trying to weigh up the going, the whole hog with this thing versus what do I actually want to do. This is my amp, it's not somebody else's, and I'm quite happy as long as I can just get that thing stable. The problem is now that the chassis is kind of warped in that position, you can bash it back, but the weight of the transformer keeps wanting to move it back. That's clearly where it's happy to sit, and so I need to decide whether actually is that fine. Yes, I think it is. And if the amp gets dropped again, it will only move the chassis again. So am I overly concerned about it? No, it's not, but I do think I should add probably some flat washers underneath the Keps nuts just to try and add a little bit more strength there. I don't want to go too far overboard with it. The output transformer, the weak point is obviously the metal that they used for the brackets in there, which were very easily straightened back, but also after a weekend of hanging, that one at the back there, you can see, has bent slightly again. So come on, get focused. Yeah, so maybe get a new chassis. Well, they don't make there isn't an aftermarket chassis for this amp, the 135. They did used to make, because I think it's the same width as a twin reverb chassis, right? And they did used to make a twin reverb chassis that wasn't punched at all, had no holes in it. It was just the folded metal. But they don't appear to be available anymore because they did want to do a new chassis on it. That would have been the option. And I could have punched most of the holes. The transformer cutout I'd have taken to my machine shop to get done. But also, I like this chassis. I like that it's a bit bent and a bit damaged and it's been through the wars. And of course, it's got the original serial number, which I want to retain. It's up there, isn't it? I'll get focused. So yeah, I want to keep it. I think it's it's part of the history of the amp. It's not too far gone. It's nowhere in the worst condition of others I've seen, ones that are really rusty and really twisted and bent. This one's not bad at all. So, I mean, the bananaing on the front is much better than it was, although this transformer seems to have pulled it again. But yeah, I'm not overly fussed about it. As I said, it's my amp. And you know what, in the future, if it does annoy me, I can always do this again. I can always strip everything out and make further progress on it. But I kind of want to keep some of that patina on it, some of that history with it. Yeah, it's a little bit damaged, but I don't mind. So that's where I think I'm going to go. So I'm going to pull these the boards and the transformers off again, straighten these holes out again, and then see if we can find some appropriately sized washers just to help spread that load and reinforce that section. So if I just put a straight edge on the chassis, and assuming that this chassis is straight anyway, which is not, but you can kind of see how far out of plumb it is at that point. So that's what we're going to use as our reference point, and I'm going to call that at the top point 5mm. It's moved 4.5, 5mm. We'll call it 5 there, which is actually less than it was when I first got the amp. So there has been an improvement, but it still naturally wants to fight and sit that way. That's in that dimension, and Yeah, I can't really measure the on the y-axis, so, but you get the idea. Anyway, I'm going to take these off. Okay, so washers in on both sides. These are the largest washers that I can actually get in there without well, interfering with the transformer itself. You can see how close I'm, right at the limit there. So that's the best I can do, I think, for the time being. And it's probably as far as I want to go with it. But yeah, let me spin this over and I'll show you how much that's moved the transformer back. Okay, so now, I mean, you can actually see that gap is smaller, but it's now 2 millimeters. Zoom you in even further, maybe give you a better view. Come on, Behave. There we go. The very top where we were, if I'm being generous, I would say it's 2, just under 2, I think. So that's 3 mil. It's pulled it tighter, pulled it straighter. I think, to be honest, that's the best we're going to get it. But look, I can actually move it with my hand. You know, that's just a chassis flex. So I think, there you go, you can see, that's just with my hand. So I'm tempted to leave it as it is. I think that's what I will do. But I will look, once it's mounted in the cabinet, maybe we add some sort of support bracket to it, just so it doesn't move further that way. You know, try and pull it further that way. But that's yeah, there's enough chassis flex in there where that's what you're going to out with. But that's kind of where it's happy to sit now, and I think that's good enough, at least for my amp anyway. Yeah. What do you think? Right, next thing is the original dual light, which I do want to keep. And so I'll give it a bit of a clean up. Yeah, give it a bit of a clean up. Number 47 bulb, of course. Got to clean out those solder grommets. Here you go, Drake. It's an old Drake unit, look. Drake Chicago for number 21C or 40. How cool is that? Right, okay. So yeah, I'm just going to tidy this up, clean it up. Fortunately, I can't get the dual light itself out of the holder. It is very, very tight in there. So here's the problem: is I would be tempted to stick this in the ultrasonic cleaner, but I don't know what that's going to do to this insulation material here. Whereas if I just use some switch cleaner or some IPA maybe, it will clean up and it should be okay. As with this, yeah, I think we'll just be very gentle with it. And try and clean it up the best we can. But yeah, I'm going to start with these holes. And that's those in then. So dual light in the top left, this tag strip here, all in, and this tag strip here in as well. So from now on, I'm pretty much at the stage where I can start wiring things. I've got to do some thinking about which order I'm going to do this, because it's not, I won't be doing this in the same order that I do my regular kind of builds. Because it's a different style of, really, it's you could almost think of it as a different build style, these ultra linears. So I've got to work things out and where things can go. I'm still waiting on that bias pot to arrive, but that's okay. Christmas post is always slow. So yeah, coming on nicely. Happy with the board. Happy with that board. Transformer is now in. Transformers are now back in. Pots are in, of course. You've seen that. And yeah. So I think probably the next step will be power stuff first. So I want to get power section wired up. So I've got to do all my inter-socket connections, resistors. So the 3 resistors for each socket, which will be the grid stopper, the screen stoppers, and the bias sense 1 ohms on the cathodes. They'll go in. Then I've got my inter-socket wiring, stuff like that. I need to have a look and remind myself where the connections to and from the filter stack go that come through the chassis and how they connect up. Remember, I've got my different grounding point up here now, so I've got to make sure any wires that were going to transformer bolts and things are now going up there. Yeah, you get the idea. But I'm really, this is now we're now deep into the rebuild process. So yeah, I'm quite happy with progress so far. Unfortunately, I do need to put this to one side because I've got to get everything else ready and finished and done before I stop for Christmas. But I will be in over the Christmas break if I get a chance to try and make some more progress on this, because I do want to get this fired up probably in the 1st or 2nd week of January. So yeah, that's about where I am at the moment. But yeah, it's coming on. It's great. Am I 100% happy with it? At the moment, no. But I will be shortly. I mean, if you look how far it's come, it's come a long way, right? It doesn't stink of piss anymore. Things are cleaning up and tidying up nicely. Got lots of new bits in there. Now, I am slightly annoyed that I'm having to use more new parts than I planned to. I wanted to reuse a lot of the old bits, but all the bits that I am having to replace are serviceable items anyway. So pots, sockets, valves, resistors, caps, stuff like that. They're all stuff that would be replaced at some point in the amp's life anyway. But the transformers, as far as we know, is still good based on the testing we've done. The chassis isn't scrap, so I am obviously able to reuse it. It's never going to be perfect. It's always going to be slightly odd, but that's okay. It's part of the amp. It's part of the story that this amp has. And at least it's coming back to life. So yeah, because I'm using a IEC socket with a built-in fuse, I'm going to repurpose the original fuse holder as a B+ fuse. So I need to have a think about where I want that to go and how I want that to function, whether I just fuse the high voltage center tap or something else. I'll think about it. I'll come up with a plan. And of course, this can all change further down the line, so we'll see. But yeah, it's definitely coming on quite nicely. It's starting to look more like an amp again. And do you know what? The more I stare, sorry, I'm going back on myself. The more I stare at the patina of this chassis, the more I fall in love with it. I think it's great. So yeah, I'm quite pleased I didn't get it acid dipped and zinc plated, because I think it just loses some of that character, which I'm really into. And of course, being my amp, I can do what I want with it. So anyway, thanks for watching. Not sure when the next part of this is going to come out, but hit the notification bell and you'll be one of the first to know. Thanks for watching.